presentation is coming. So, hi everyone. I don't know if you know me already or if you've been to the other talk I gave during Christmas time, but my name is Barbara and I'm a lecturer in film and visual culture, and I also a teaching fellow in the Spanish department. And as you can see, I'm also from Spain. So I'm going to be talking about some Easter traditions that we have in Spain and what happens around this Easter period, which I have to say, spoiler alert, it's quite different from what happens here in the UK. So Easter for us, we call it Semana Santa. There's a different word also for Easter rather than Semana Santa, and we call it Pascua, but not a lot of people use that word because for us, Easter, it's equal to Semana Santa. And in English, Semana Santa means Holy Week. And it's mainly, and I say mainly, like 90% of the time and traditions are going to be religious, even more than in Christmas, because during Christmas, everyone has like a religious background, but here, people don't really forget about that background. They actually celebrate the religious festivity. However, there are going to be some very different customs depending on the region of Spain, because the traditions in the north and the south are completely different. And that happens because there's a lot of different heritage around Spain and different traditions as well. So in the south, we're going to be looking at more traditional and religious traditions, whereas in the north, sometimes they're going to be rather pagan or closer to the Celtic background that the people from the north, which I include myself because I'm from the north of Spain, we have a more Celtic background. So when is this happening? Well, it changes every year, as also happens with Easter here in the UK. So actually, we have to look at our calendars all the time. It's not like Christmas when we have Christmas Day, 25th of December. This changes every year. So it's set in the week after of the 5th week of Quaresma. In English, Quaresma is Lent. And this Lent or Quaresma period is the time that Jesus Christ spent in the desert. So he was wander around the desert for 40 days until he arrived into Jerusalem. That's what the Bible says. So we have to count from that week onwards to know when Easter or Semana Santa is going to be celebrated. What do we celebrate? Well, it's what we call the Passion of Jesus Christ. And the Passion is all these events, well, it's usually around the week. It's all these events that happen that actually led to his crucifixion in the last instance. So Easter or Holy Week or Semana Santa is actually the Passion of Jesus Christ. So this is a brief timeline. So Easter or the Holy Week, because it's actually a week, start in Spain on Sunday and in most countries as well. It starts on Sunday, and that's what we call Domingo de Ramos or Palm Sunday. And I'm going to be explaining all these different days and celebrations in a minute. Then, of course, from Sunday until Thursday, some people do celebrate some stuff, but usually there's nothing on until the following Thursday. And that is Jueves Santo or Good Thursday. Then there's the Friday, Viernes Santo, Good Friday. And then people also do some celebrations on the Saturday, but traditionally just it's the Sunday, not the Saturday, because it's the day that Jesus Christ resurrected, like became alive once again after his death. And that's in the UK, it's Easter Sunday. But in Spain, we call it Resurrection Sunday. So the first thing to get to know about these traditions, it's the procesiones. Procesiones are actually parades that represent the Holy Passion. And depending on the day of the week and also the town and the region and their beliefs, you will see different imaginary. For instance, they are bigger in some regions in Spain, like Andalusia, Extremadura, Castilla y León, Murcia, and so on. But there are actually almost none in the north of Spain. There's no processions, and we celebrate some other way. But these also have like an artistic and cultural value, because you see they're actually sculptures. And I'm an art historian, and during my degree we studied a lot of this as a sculpture, because during the 16th 17th century and after the Reformation, Catholic Church wanted the representation of their figures of Jesus Christ, Virgin Mary, and all the saints. So in Spain, it was like a big boom in terms of representing this religious background. And that's when all these new parades started. And the main, not all of them have artistic value, I have to say that, but there are some iconic ones, and they are most of them from the Baroque period. And these sculptures I'm mentioning, we call it pasos. And pasos in English actually mean steps, because they have to follow this march, like one step at a time, because it's not carried by car or truck or something. Underneath that figure that you see on the screen, there are people, like very devoted people, that are carrying the sculpture. So they have to go step by step, and they have to follow a specific march. So that's why we call it pasos. In terms of the imaginary, as I was saying, it really depends on the day of the week and also the belief of a specific town. Some people are more devoted to Virgin Mary or to other virgins rather than saints. And the picture you can see is actually one of the most famous ones that happened in Seville, because in Andalusia, these are like the biggest week of the year. And you see there's a lot of people on the streets, and they're wanting to see the sculpture, the imaginary. So depending on the day of the week, for example, they call it paso of polio, like the step of the palio, sorry, when they carry the Virgin Mary. Paso of the mystery, when they show Jesus before the crucifixion. Paso of Nazareno is the figure of Jesus carrying the cross on its way to being crucified. And then we have the Paso of Christ, when it represents Christ already on the cross. So there's different iconographies to look at here. I'm not going to be spending a lot of time on this, but just so you know that this is something that has their own name. And also, this is something that people outside of Spain really struggle to understand, because, of course, this reminds us of different figures, like very racist figures. But this is nothing to do with that. And these are called Nazarenos. And the Nazarenos are the members of this brotherhood that make penance in the Spanish Holy Week. So they have this different clothing from different neighborhoods, brotherhoods, sorry, because depending on the color, they will belong to a different brotherhood, even though it's like the same community, but they will have different stages as well. So you will see people wearing white, blue. There's a lot of Nazarenos wearing purple as well. So this is something that really stands out and is very different from other traditions. So Domingo de Ramos, I said that we start the Holy Week in Domingo de Ramos, and that was what I would translate for Palm Sunday. And it's the day that Jesus arrived to Jerusalem after 40 days wandering through the desert. So when he arrived, people in Jerusalem were welcoming him with all these palms, and that's what we celebrate there. So the normal tradition is a mass, a big mass, where you will carry one bouquet of eucalyptus or a dried palm. As you can see in the pictures, there's different kinds of them, and you will get it sanctified by the priest. And this tradition is usually celebrated in northern Spain. So people from the south, they could go to mass, but all this tradition of wearing the palms, and also it's very, very normal, like everyone does it. You will have to buy new fancy clothes that you will wear on that day. You will go to mass with your fancy clothes, with your palms or your bouquets. You will get them sanctified, and then you will go to your godparents and bring the palms to them. In return, they will get you a pudding. I will show some pictures of the pudding. And in some areas, they will only receive money or the following Sunday, like Easter Sunday for you guys. It really depends again on the area, but basically it's just giving your godparents this as a present, and then they give you money or this pudding. And in some parts of Spain, people, as I say, will buy new and fancy clothes for this day. I'm from the north, and in my region, Asturias, everyone wears new clothes. And it's usually this kind of day that when you're a teenager, you're very looking forward to, because it's the only day of the year that you go out with friends and hang out with them outside of class. So yeah, you were really looking forward to that day. But as I said, people the south of Spain, they don't really celebrate that much. So this is like a representation of the different puddings that you can get on that day or the following Sunday, that your godparents will give you in return for this palm. This is what I usually have, and that's what we call boyu. So boyu would be like a roll, a sweet roll, or a bun even. And this is typically from Asturias, and it's like a flaky pastry filled with some almonds, like almond paste, and there's some decoration in meringue, sugar flowers, and sugar cherries, and they will have like different layers. And it's very, very tasty. I know I have one ready for me when I go back to Spain next week. And we have also in Asturias this bollo de Pascua, and it's traditional just from one specific city called Avilés. So this is made just there, and it's like different layers of a traditional sponge, which is also very, very tasty. But it's, as you can see, the flaky pastry one and this one are completely different. In other areas of Spain, like Catalonia, Valencia, and the Balearic Islands, they will have this, and they will call it Mona de Pascua. And Mona, again, it's a word that they would use in Catalan. And these different ways of referring to a bun. And it's something like, yeah, a very spongy kind of cake. And then we have that rosca gallega from Galicia. And if you were here with me during the Christmas presentation, you will remember roscón de reyes, or galette de roi, as they would call it in France. So this is very similar to that. And even the decoration is super similar, but they will use it as well in Easter. And also in some places in Latin America, this is also traditional. For example, in Argentina, where there was a lot of migration from Galicia. And well, these like the more contemporary and up-to-date ones. So even though we still exchange the typical bonds that I just show you, nowadays people are also more keen to get like just chocolate figures. And this is something that you're familiar with. So what happens on Jueves Santo? So this is a Good Thursday that I mentioned. So this is the time that celebrates the Last Supper, or La Última Cena. And that is when Jesus Christ, was arrested. So this is what we not celebrate, but commemorate, let's say. Then we have Viernes Santo, that's when he got crucified. And then, as I was saying, we move forward. We have Sábado Santo, that's the Virgin Mary carrying the dead body of Jesus. I know there are some very explicit images. And then Sunday, we have the resurrection. So we have Christ alive again, and you will see there's different ways of representing especially in comparison with the dead body or the Christ that was leading to the crucifixion. So here is like a triumph for religious people. However, I was saying this is a very religious kind of festivity, and you were seeing some very religious images as well. But there are other traditions in different parts of Spain that are also very typical from this period. So, in Oviedo, that's again in the north of Spain, they have a mass in the cathedral that is followed by the exhibition of the Holy Shroud. So in Oviedo, they have, well, we have, because I'm from this kind of area, we have the what is supposed to be the Holy Shroud that covered Jesus when he was buried. There's no procession or something like that. There's just this exhibition of this unique piece. Then, if we move again, this is part of the north area of Spain in Navarra. You will know Navarra for Los Sanfermines that happen in Pamplona. Well, not very far from Pamplona, they celebrate what it's called Volatin. And this happens in the morning of the Holy Saturday, so just before the resurrection. So you see there's a wooden doll that's on top of this tower that actually represents Judas Iscariot. So Judas was the one who betrayed Jesus for 30 silver coins. And they, here in Navarra, they kind of try to kill the wooden doll. So it emulates the death of Judas. So he's shaken from the balcony of this clock house or the tower of this town. And it's also stripped of clothing to firecrackers. And they believe that this tradition dates back to the 13th or 14th century. Then we have in Teruel, in Aragon, that's close to the Pyrenees, we have tambores de calanda. So these tambores or drums, so tambor is a drum, as you can see on the picture. So they begin to sound on Holy Thursday or Good Thursday, and they don't stop until noon of Holy Saturday. So that's a lot of drums. I think you should be from this specific town to try to cope with all the sound. Then in Valencia, in the Valencia area, we have what they call trencaperols. And then there's all the tradition that is throwing water out of the window. So during this time, families throw clay pots and water as well out of the windows. And this is a symbol of the resurrection of Jesus during the Holy Saturday. Well, that happened during the midnight. And it's also part of this tradition of cleaning. So take the bad out and start from scratch with the good. This is like a very and completely different tradition from everything that I just mentioned. And it's called Dance of Death, and it happens in Verges, in Girona, which is in Catalonia. And this dates back from the time of the Black Plague, and it was celebrated like in much larger territory outside of this town in Girona, but now it's only celebrated there, and it happens on the night of Holy or Good Thursday. So there's a group of people, as you see on screen, dressed as skeletons who dance to the rhythm of this kettle drum, carrying a flag and staves. So the dance of the dead symbolizes and recalls the transition of life and the constant presence of death. So there's a slight link here to all this idea of the Holy Week and the death of Jesus, but in a different way, not addressing any religious background. And I'm sorry if you're hungry. I hope you have your tea after this talk, but now we have to talk about food. So Quaresma or Lent is supposed to be a period of fasting. So all these weeks before uh, Holy Week or Easter, people were supposed to be fasting. We don't do that anymore. I have never done it. I've never known anyone who've done it. But the tradition says that you should be fasting because it's the time that Jesus spent in the desert, and supposedly he didn't have any food during that time. So the tradition says that on Good Friday and Ash Wednesday, fasting and abstinence from any type of food must be governed throughout the day. This sacrifice reaches the 6 Fridays of Lent, where abstinence will only be from foods prepared with meat. So meat was not allowed. However, there was one thing that was allowed during this time, and that was breakfast. So all the foods that you're going to see today are related to breakfast. And of course, there's a link with breakfast and sweet stuff and desserts. So the first one doesn't look like a very breakfast type of food. However, this sopas de ajo or garlic soup, it's a traditional breakfast from Castilla y León, and they would contain garlic, eggs, slices of hard bread, serrano ham, meat broth, not meat, but bean broth, salt, pepper, paprika, and oil. And they're very light texture, but they will keep you going throughout the day. I've had them before, and they are very, very tasty. Then we have this potaje de vigilia. Potaje means stew, and vigilia is the period during the early morning of the day and you are awake. So that was vigilia means. And it's eaten in the northern areas of Spain, and it's a stew with cod and chickpeas. Then we have, well, let's move on to the sweet stuff. We have torrijas, and this is like the most traditional dessert or food that you will have during this period, because it's common in all the different areas of Spain, regardless of the region. And it's similar to a French toast. So it's like hard kind of bread that you will soak in milk and egg and some cinnamon, and then you fry it. And as French toast, these are delicious. Then we have rosquillas, and again, this is very typical in all areas of Spain, and not just during the Holy Week, but throughout the year. And the origin apparently is from the ancient Roman Empire. And this recipe is moving all around Europe and also the Mediterranean. So it's not just something that you will have in Spain. This is specific from Alicante, and they would call it toña. And it's like a brioche bun, so very spongy, like a sweet bread. And as I said, it's from Alicante, but also can be found in Murcia. Anyway, Alicante and Murcia, they are very close. We have buñuelos, which are vignettes or beignets, and they are usually eaten during Lent and Easter. But of course, I remember when I was a kid, and my mom would feed them for breakfast. So it's something typical that you will have throughout the year. And however, I was doing some research before this talk, and apparently this was just traditional from Ash Wednesday and Good Friday. However, now every day of the Holy Week you can find it in Spain in any shop. And then pestiños, which is something very typical from Andalusia. So as you can see, pestiños, puñuelos, and rosquillas, they will have like the very similar kind of dough, but they will be made different because buñuelos, they are like very airy, while pestiños are like hard. But it's still very, very sweet and very, very delightful. And then if we move back to the north, Asturias, and you can see me on the screen, my partner, my friends, my mom. So this is what we call espicha. And it's a food feast that we celebrate the end of Lent, so the end of the fasting period, and also the arrival of spring. So we don't actually have like this very tight relation with religion, and it's more like a Celtic side. And what we do here is like an open bar for food and drink, especially cider or sidra. And we have all the food there, and we can just eat and share and have a good time all together. Then there's the Leon's lemonade. So Leon's is a region of Spain. It's also my surname, but it's a region in Castilla y León. And it's not just the typical lemonade that you can think of. It's not just lemon juice. However, it has a lot of wine, so it's closer actually to sangria. And they will make like some wine cocktails with it. And this limonada leonesa, as you would say in Spain, will have will be marinated for 3 days. All the fruit will be soaking in the wine and the lemonade for 3 days. So after all, I was saying, what's happening here? So what about bunnies and eggs? Because this is something that you didn't found out yet here in this presentation or in the traditions I was referring to. Well, bunnies and eggs are a symbol of arrival of spring, fertility, and the beginning of life. And this is something that you do here in the UK all the time. And this is rather Celtic and the pagan tradition instead of religious. So there's something about, again, the north of Spain. Sorry, there's a lot of references to Asturias. But they have this called huevos pintos. And if you know Spanish, you see huevos, it doesn't really written with a G, but with an H, but this is our dialect in Asturias. And it's the painted eggs. So that's the translation for huevos pintos. And it's celebrated in just 2 towns of the region, in Pola de Siero and in Langreo, where I'm from. There's another picture of me there with my dad, wearing the traditional costume of Asturias. So it's celebrated 2 days after Resurrection Sunday. So it will be a Tuesday. And this is something that you cannot find anywhere else in Spain. There's like some very small touches about, or a small reference to it. And it happens in Cañada Rosal in Seville, but they will have like dyed eggs. So they will actually dye the eggs with one color. And also, again, the same in Catalonia and Valencia, is some very specific regions. Because as I was saying, there's nowhere else in Spain or in the closest regions of other countries close to Spain that they celebrate this. However, again, as I was doing some research, I found out that painting eggs is something that some European countries they would do. So there are some specific places in France, Russia, England, well, you know that, Germany, Greece, and Poland. They will have like different traditions anyway. So for us, this is like a big day. People would paint eggs, especially artists. They will sell them. We would wear traditional costumes, and we will have like a very big day out, drinking, having time with our friends, and eating a lot as well. And that's all from my part today. So I'm very looking forward to your questions in the chat. Thank you for listening. Okay, no problem, Alice.
Okay, hi. So sorry about that. I was just saying to Elise, I keep getting kicked out of this session for some reason today, which never normally happens, but you know, we roll with these things when they happen to us. Elise is on hand in case I get kicked off again. So if there's any questions that come into the chat, she will be able to read them out for you while I try and rejoin. But thank you so much for that, Barbara. That was really fantastic. I'm just looking to see if there's anything I might have missed. You know, when I was out of the room, but I don't think so. Elise, I take it there's not been any questions come in while I've been uh, elsewhere. But I have a question for you. I was going to ask you, what's your favorite food out of all the things you showed us? What's the thing you look forward to most at Easter?
So apart from the pizza, where everyone will gather and have food and share the food, it's probably the first one, el bollo, which is like a flaky pastry one, because it's something very specific from my identity and my region. And it's not like the typical dessert that you would do with your family because it's very complicated. So you just go to the shop and buy it. And I cannot do that here. So all the other things like I can make myself. I like cooking, but that is difficult. So I'd rather go to a shop and buy it. So my mom already ordered one for me for next week because I'm visiting. So yeah, I have one prepared.
And it will be, as you said, you're going home. Will the whole Easter celebration be quite a big thing for your extended family and everyone coming together?
Actually, no. No, it's not like a big celebration like in Christmas, like family getting together. No, there's nothing like that in Spain. There's not like a family holiday. So yeah, I'm actually going to Huevos Pintos this year after many years. So I'm actually looking forward to that too.
Super. Elise just popped a question in the chat there. For buying new clothes, are they traditional clothes or is it just any new clothes?
So it would be new clothes in general, not traditional. And I would say that probably is the first day of the year that you would wear is spring clothes. So you're like buying the new stuff for the season. So you're celebrating the season as well, spring. And also because I was saying this is something in the north, it's very chilly in the north in this time. It's not like we are in Malaga where all year is like very good weather. In the north, it's chilly. So yeah, you have to risk a lot in order to wear that clothes.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Are there any other questions at all? Excuse me. Um, don't see anyone else coming in yet, but we'll give you a couple of minutes just in case you're typing or trying to think of something. Oh, June is asking, are godparents an important part of family life in Spain?
I don't think so. Well, the good parents will be with you when you are baptized. So when a new baby is born, the parents will designate some good parents, and then they would give you some presents during this day, well, during the Palm Sunday every year. But they're not really something like this big. It's yeah, I wouldn't say so. Technically, if something happens to your parents, they what parents will take care of you, but this is not something that I've seen ever. But yeah, it's more like a figure, something rather
Yeah,
than. Mm,
yeah. I was gonna say, I feel like it's quite similar here from what I've seen as well. I mean, I haven't
yeah,
ever seen any godparents actually taking on children if they
yeah.
were needed to do so. Yeah, it's probably a more traditional thing. Excuse
Mm.
me. Can't see any other questions coming in. So, oh, here we go. If you don't have godparents, who would you give your Palm Sunday gift to?
Well, I didn't have. Well, I had godparents, but they actually like they got divorced, so they weren't interested in having this relationship anymore. So I actually gave my palm to my grandma. So my grandma took over as my godmother. So yeah, I think someone else would do that for you, especially someone from your family.
Yeah, you can just adapt to find another suitable
Yeah,
person.
there's nothing set in stone. They don't have to sign a contract or anything.
Okay. I think that might be it. Unless, oh, Simon saying, really interesting, thank you. I'm looking forward to visiting the bakeries in Malaga next week.
Just do that. You won't regret it. In Malaga, there's going to be some parades as well, the procesiones. You will see them.
Well, that sounds amazing. Simon, you can send us some baked goods up to Aberdeen. I think then that's that everyone now. I think so. Oh, another one. Do you have particular drinks at this time?
Apart from the Lyon's lemonade, there's no specific drinks. I wouldn't say it's something specific. No, it's not like Christmas that we have like bubbles and champagne or that. I don't think there's any specific drink.
Oh, here's a good one. Any good places to get Spanish Easter food treats in Aberdeen?
I'm afraid I don't know any place where you can get it. There's just one Spanish, well, I think there's two now, two Spanish restaurants in Aberdeen, and as far as I'm aware, they don't offer that kind of thing. What a shame.
Terrible. Oh, there's a gap in the market for you there, Barbara.
I know, yeah.
You can get your apron on. Um, I, I think that's us done. Every time I say I think that's us done, we get another one. So, June's saying, can we have an alumni evening with the bakes? There you go, Barbara. That's your next event. You're gonna have to bake for everyone.
Okay, so next time, no presentation, just baking. That's
Just
good.
baking. That's I mean, I will partake. It's part of my job.
Good.
Okay then, I would just like to say a huge thank you once again, Barbara, for joining us and taking the time to come and speak to everyone. It's so appreciated and so interesting. I just think it's incredible to see how differently people celebrate, very similar traditions, kind of, celebrations all around the world. It's really amazing, and especially if someone firsthand explaining it. And thank you to everyone else who's joined us for this session today. It's fantastic that you've taken the time, and we hope that you'll join more online events with us soon. So thank you, everyone, and have a lovely evening, morning, afternoon, wherever you are in the world.
Thank you, everyone.
See you later. Thank you.
Bye.